You're listening to Just My Show, your number one source for pop culture.
This show, it's probably one of the most popular shows in the history of TV over the years. People love it, but I do think sometimes it gets a little bit of a bad rap, in that people sort of throw it in with a lot of the other family shows of its time, which isn't a bad thing, but I sort of always felt like this show was just a little bit funnier. The characters were a little more interesting. What do you think, looking back? What did the show do right, and what, if anything, looking back, do you wish you did differently?
Well, I mean, I think the show's a fabulous show, and I appreciate it more every year. I think that what it did right was it really depicted American families. Not all American families, but it certainly depicted actually a larger segment than most people would like to think of that particular time period. And, a family that had a mom, a pop, and a couple of kids, and had dinner all together. And I know I did that when I was a kid. And I just think that it dealt with the situation of growing up in a real honest and humorous way. I mean, I think the reason, the show's been on, it's never gone off the air, it's on, I think it can be, somebody said once that it's on somewhere in the world every minute of the day. I mean, so it's one of the only shows from the 50s, along with I Love Lucy and maybe the Honeymooners, I don't know, but that have endured that long. So there must be a reason, and I think the reason is people can identify with the characters and the situations. And of course, it was really well written and well directed, and for the time we spent I'd say maybe 25% more money. We had a higher budget than most of the other sitcoms.
Now, it's hard to imagine anyone else playing Wally Cleaver, but it could have happened because, first of all, you didn't play Wally in the original pilot. He was played by an actor named Paul Sullivan. And second of all, growing up, I didn't realize this, you were one of the best junior divers of the country, and you may well have been on track to compete in the Olympics. So you had other things going on besides acting. How did this all end up playing out?
Well, it's odd that the place I used to work out, where my coach gave me workouts twice a week, was a Hollywood Athletic Club, and they had a lifeguard, and the lifeguard was an actor. His name was Bill Bryant. And one day he asked my mom if it would be okay if he took me to the studio with him. There was a series called Johnny Wildlife that was a father and son series. He was up for the father, and he thought it might be a cool package because we looked very much alike if we both went in. And that's basically what happened. When I went in, and unfortunately he didn't get the role, but I did, and we made a couple of pilots which didn't sell. They were really advanced for their time, and then Leave It to Beaver came along. So it was sort of it just kind of happened by accident, really.
So obviously you're just playing roles on Leave It to Beaver, but if I want to go through the cast quickly and give me a quick line on each person and tell me how close in personality the actor is to the character. It's Hugh Beaumont, first of all.
Okay, well, he was a great guy, but he was very much of a man's man, and he wasn't really fond of kids, which is ironic. And he was a terrific actor, and he was very serious about what he did. He was a writer, and he directed a number of the shows, actually. But he really didn't see himself being a father on a sitcom for too many years. But, as it went, that's what happened.
Barbara Billingsley.
Oh, she's lovely. She was just the greatest person in the world. The thing that's funny about Barbara is that, she always gets tagged with the fact that she was always at home vacuuming in high heels and pearls, and, what mother did that, and, it set the women's movement back years, when in fact, obviously, she was working. She was a working mother. She was the opposite from, that character. But there's nobody sweeter in the world than Barbara.
Jerry Mathers.
Jerry's, he was a kid that could never say a line wrong. He just had a gift. He, had been working from the time he was 2 years old, and he had this incredible innate ability, and he was just, I think he was, there may be a couple of other ones that I can mention, but I think that he was probably the best, or if not one of the best, kid actors of that era, and, fun guy.
Ken Osmond is Eddie Haskell.
Yeah, Kenny was always, he was a character. He was, when you say the characters like their, to a certain extent, and 99% of the time, actors are similar to the character they're playing, not necessarily in their behavior, the things they do, but the traits they have and the way they talk, So Kenny was, he was perfect for the role. I mean, you couldn't. I think he's one of the best, along with the Fonz and Archie Bunker, one of the best characters ever. Well, and Art Carney, of course, one of the best characters ever on television. But he was a little older than we were, and he got in his share of trouble goofing around on the set.
Frank Banks, who played Lumpy, who I normally wouldn't go there, but he wrote a book about it. On the show, he's not really a ladies' man, but in his book, he I guess in real life it was a little different.
Yeah, but don't believe his book. His book is a fantasy of the wish list in his brain.
He makes it sound like he's the Wilt Chamberlain of sitcoms.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I mean, he was, he always had cars. He always had, the coolest new car, and he was, he always dressed really well, and he was, he had an image to maintain, and, he was just a funny guy. I didn't hang out with him, nor did I hang out with Kenny, because they were a couple of years older. So I didn't know them on a personal level until after the show was over, and he became a securities and bonds salesman, and I did some business with him, but all those guys are great characters.
For more, go to www.justmyshow.com.